all Juve, where it's all Juve all the time. All right, we are coming at you with the post Juventus versus Napoli podcast. We've got a full panel this morning. Okay, myself, Cliff, Lexa, Omar. Good morning, everybody. I see the comments. Everybody's ready to go. And usually, we're waiting for you. So it's okay if you guys have to wait for us this morning. We just want to give you a little time to all get in there. All right. So good morning to all the usual suspects that I see already join us in the chat. And look at this. We've got Jat finally able to make his first live chat with us. Welcome. And let's have some fun. I know the result was something we wanted more of. Obviously, a 1-1 draw and a big opportunity for Juventus, given Napoli's absentees, to capitalize. But again, we ended up with a draw. We're going to do our best to break this thing down. Maybe have a little fun in regards to some of the banter that was floating around there yesterday. What do you guys think? Have some fun with that. Hey.
Always
Napoli crying a little bit. Were they crying a little bit?
A little bit of tears, but it's okay. We're gonna swim in those tears this season.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. Real quick before we jump into this, if you're listening to the podcast on audio, get over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, join the live chat. That's where all the fun is. Okay, and of course, check out alljuvicast.com. A ton of great articles. We just added 2 fantastic writers. Okay, so the team's growing quickly. And of course, stripedheartsapparel.com. Hit the website, check out the merch, and support the podcast. And proceeds go to charity. Okay, now without further ado, let's get to this game and let's break this thing down, everybody. Okay, we knew Napoli was depleted. And of course, in the build-up to this one, you had the news breaking out that the ASL of Torino was going to block 3 of Napoli's players. Okay, one of them being Zielinski. And there you go. So there's eruption number 1 with the Napoli fan base. And the funniest thing for me was last year when the ASL blocked Napoli from traveling, it had nothing to do with the club. Okay, this was just ASL doing their job. Fast forward to this season and ASL Torino blocking their players. Now all of a sudden it's a Juventus issue. Okay, and we're cheats and all this. Just a lot of the usual crying, right? They're being hypocrites. It's okay to say it, guys.
Yeah, it wasn't even towards other teams from the region last season. Like, everyone was allowed to play in Serie B and Serie C. It was only Napoli who weren't allowed to travel.
Exactly. My spirit animal, Omar. Let's do this thing, okay? We're on the same wavelength here. Hypocrites, okay? I don't like that. Just drop it. And then in the end, this was the best part. Oh, it feels so good being right and just Napoli having to eat their words because the ASL didn't block those players. They ended up playing for Napoli, okay? So after all that, all the crying, all the whining, they were in there. So it was perfectly fine. We get to our lineup, and Dybala starts from the bench, okay? Just coming back from injury, I really had no problems with it. But we'll get to these guys here. So Juve ends up fielding Tech, of course, in goal. All right. Quadrado, Rugani, Delict, Sandro, McKennie, Locatelli, Rabiot, Chiesa, Morata, Bernardeschi. That's the starting lineup. 4-3-3. I loved it. I was fine with it. I said, hey, Dybala can just come in probably 60th minute or something like that, get some minutes in the second half. Given Napoli's lineup, and honestly, even Napoli, for them to say that, they were really depleted, the back line is probably where I'd say they were hurting. But they still had Di Lorenzo in there, who does good. The other 3, Ramani, Jesus, Gulam, that's pretty bad. But the midfield, Demon Lobotka was fine. Lobotka was one of the players that the ASL said they were going to block, but they didn't. Zielinski, the other. So their forward line of Mertens, Insigne, Zielinski, Politano, that's perfectly fine. And when we have Rugani on the pitch, that's a little nerve-wracking. But our lineup still, for me, we should have been able to handle them. I had no issues with our lineup or Dybala starting off the bench. What did you guys think about the starting lineup and going with that 4-3-3? Let's start with Alexa.
I liked the 4-3-3. I thought that was, we saw some reports that earlier, although those are not usually accurate, mentioning it was going to be a 4-4-2, some other kind of crazy lineups, I think a couple days prior to the game. So it was refreshing to see, like, either like I said, I like the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1, I guess, depending on who's fit, who you're going to play. So I liked I wanted to see Berna on the wing with Chiesa partnering him on the other wing. So we got to see that, which was interesting. So in terms of the starting lineup, and then obviously Morata playing false nine, that's a given. So in terms of that, I mean, I didn't want to see Dybala on the bench, of course, but as you mentioned, just coming off of an injury, it wasn't too big of a surprise to see that actually. But yeah, other than that, I would agree. In terms of who we had available to us, I had no problems with the starting 11.
Yeah, there you go. Cliff?
So for me, I had no problems with it. Like Lex said, if you're gonna not have Dybala in 4-3-3 set up flat with just the three midfielders, I'm fine with it because that's what our personnel dictates. And then Dybala coming in, personally, I would have liked him to come in for Morata at kind of like the center forward role. And I would have liked to see, those are the times where, if you put him in for Morata, he provides a lot more creativity on the ball. So if you put him and you have Chiesa on the wing and you have, well, Bernardeschi came out, but if you have those three up top, I think you could have maybe done more against Napoli because Morata, he did not have a great game, but we'll get to that later. But from a lineup perspective, I was fine with it just based on their personnel.
There you go. And Omar?
The formation was great. I like 4-3-3. The personnel, some of them were just because we had no other options. I would have liked to see either Arthur or Bentancur in place of Rabiot. I'm frustrated with Morata for a long time now, and I would have been fine with Keane starting, but Allegri chose to go with Morata, so it is what it is. Should have beaten Napoli with that lineup, no matter what.
Yeah. And let's get to the match. We're going to quickly go through the highlights. Everybody knows the drill around here, and talk about some moments in the matchup. And then we are going to get to all the goods after that. So, yeah, a lot of frustrations with certain players. Of course, we're going to get into player performances. You see Jat basically saying, if you had asked me who hadn't played in a while between Sandro and Gulam, I would have sadly said Sandro. And KM is absolutely done with seeing Alex Sandro. And there's some frustration in some players that are there. And Dells is saying he can finally see that Alexandro is finished. He thought that the criticism aimed at him was harsh, but not anymore. He definitely did not have a positive outing whatsoever. Let's get to some of the highlights. There was not a lot to take from it, sadly, for Juventus, but we'll get into this. The approach was good from the start. I will give that. Juve had a good approach, but again, I think it comes down to more lacking ideas, right? Here you have a corner kick, though. We're about 4 minutes in, and McKennie, free header, just wide. Extremely frustrating. This is a live look at me at work while the game's taking place, okay? Just absolutely shattered. Again, conversion, right, on the opportunities that we do get, it has to be better. Especially on a free header, but frustrating. So we carry on, and then you've got Chiesa driving up the field on a counter attack, and he decides he's going to have a rip short side, off foot to left-footed, no go. Here you have the Alexandro 360 defending, and I'm not 100% sure what's going there, but we had Rugani behind him too, and yeah, it's messy. Enough guys there to do something. I still say on this shot, it took a tip off of Szczesny, and that's what threw off De Ligt's clearance. I say if Tech's able to get a piece of that, he should have done better to have all of it. Personally, that's just me. What do you guys think? Should Tech have done better?
Yes,
It's tough.
yes.
I
It
think you
wasn't.
have to. If you're able to get a piece of that like that, you've got to stop that. He's got to at
It-
least get more of that. Like he's there. I don't know. I'm with Omar on this one. Alexa, what do you think? You're kind of tiebreak here.
Ooh, I mean, I agree with you for sure about tipping it, how that threw off Delict. Otherwise, I think he would have cleared that off the line. It was weird because he had all those players in front of him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm watching that and I see I didn't get any snaps of it from behind him, his view or whatnot, but it wasn't super obstructed from the players. It's really just Sandro in terms of what he could see. But
Yeah.
it fires through Sandro really quick. And again, when the keeper gets down quick enough, he can get just a piece. I think he's got to get that whole thing. I think he's got to do better.
I wonder, did he
To
know
the
that Delict was
presence of
behind him?
mind though of Delict to realize that to get to the goal line there, because he had no players that he really needed to mark. As you see these three players collapsing to one, that was still should have been Rugani right here. But Sandro made a mess of it. He went over there to help, but Delict's presence of mind really stood out there on getting there. But yeah, whether Tech needs to do better, I think the whole play needed to do better because it should have really amounted to nothing with where Mertens was and Sandro being there. Just frustrating.
Al,
So we go,
yeah.
sorry.
Do you think that he knew that Delict was behind him? That's because I feel like after it kind of seemed like he was surprised that Delict was right behind him, ready to clear it.
Well, I don't know. I would imagine that there was some communication there.
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like that's what they were kind of talking about was the communication and maybe
No,
that
it-
even through
He
tech.
must have
I
seen
don't
him.
know. I don't know.
He must have seen him going to the goal line. It was a positioning issue. Like
Yeah.
if they covered the goal well, then it wasn't such a powerful shot. The leg should
No.
have gotten to
Yeah.
it, and only the Tech touch kind of moved
Yeah.
it away from the Lick's leg. So they both
Yeah.
kind of covered the same lane and sort of bumped into each other.
Yeah.
But-
I don't know. Anyways, 1-0 for these chumps. We move on. And here's a little frustrating for me to see. So you've got Insigne carrying up in the ball. You've got Zielinski, who right now is fine, but you're going to see Rabiot close in, and you're going to see Loka also choose to close in. So now you've got McKennie, Rabiot, and Loka all right here, and it's just the focus shifting there. Berna, I'm not really sure here. He's just looks like he's got his arms up, probably telling them, "What are you doing?" So Zielinski gets open at the top of the area there, and he has a rip. Good stop from Tech. Pretty close to center though, so expected him to save that. But again, it's just these lapses. And for a bit there, Napoli was kind of pressing, and I lost that fire that we had kind of right out of the gate there. A little bit weird. And then here we get our goal. Okay. We get to our goal second half here after it ended 1-0 in the first half. And again, this is great from Chiesa, but you have McKennie throwing it in here, trying to get it to Morata for a header. Gets cleared out. Chiesa jumps on it, pounces. Very fortunate bounce off the deflection, off the defender here for Chiesa to go right into the bottom corner. But this is awesome. We needed it, and we were hoping that now we can finally take the game to them and make that push and take the lead. And I think you kind of saw it on the celebration because he goes sliding into the corner, and I think Dybala was immediately telling him like, "Hey, get out there! Like, let's go get the next one." Right? Still celebrating with him and whatnot, but great to see Chiesa come back from injury and bag a goal. But I will get into my frustration on the goal. And yes, I know to have frustrations on a goal is strange, but I'll talk about it a little bit later. But we're back in it. Okay, 1-1. Let's push. Let's get this win, right? Then you have Chiesa again, pouncing on a loose ball, having a rocket of a volley, but too close to Ospina and nobody home for the rebound, unfortunately. And then really, again, we want to push and we want all these chances, but not a whole lot of quality opportunities came out of it. Here's one late where Quad puts in a nice cross. And again, King gets there, but just goes wide. So, yeah, frustrating one. We kind of end it there. 1-1 draw, everybody. 1-1 draw. Real quick to tackle some inside of the match topics. One, was there a PK for Napoli? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I didn't even bother because you can't even find it on a highlight reel, finding the photos of that challenge that they're trying to call PK because there's absolutely nothing there. Cliff, PK?
So we talked about this a little bit in the chat. It's really tough. I don't think it's a PK. There is contact, but for me, it's not enough contact to give anything out of it. And it would be a different situation if he's going towards goal. But if I'm not mistaken, he was going away towards goal. So I don't think it would be given a penalty for me.
I don't even consider that contact. I had to watch that thing a million times to even try and see contact. Alexa,
Yeah.
PK?
Yeah, never a pen for me.
Never.
Yeah, you summarized it well.
Never a pen. Omer?
Oscars goes to Di Lorenzo. This isn't even a foul in the middle of the pitch. That's how certain I am. There was no touch. There's certainly no reason to lie on the ground for 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Now, is this a PK?
Probably,
Yeah.
but I won't hang on to it. Like if you can't beat a
No,
team,
we're not going to hang on to it, but I just want to make this clear for all the Napoli fans, okay, who has the right to call for a PK. That one, never. This one, I've seen many, many times.
I've seen it cold. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it should be called.
so I
But
don't
if
want
you can't
them
win the
clinging
game in
to
90
something
minutes,
because
don't look to VAR.
we have something to cling on to ourselves. But the difference was after the match, I saw Juventini talk about the frustration in our own team, and I saw Napoli completely complain about a delict non-issue and non-PK. So that's the difference, and I just wanted to make sure we point this out. Now, without further ado, let's get to the aftermath. Where are your guys' summaries on this match after it's completed? We're going to start this one with Omar and go back around.
An overall summary?
Yeah, I want your thoughts on this match, what you saw, what you didn't like, just your overall summary on this match after it's over. 1-1.
So conviction from one, maybe two players. Very, very slow build up. Very slow build up. And I look at how Napoli played, and their midfielders passed the ball between them in our half. Our midfielders passed the ball between them also in our half. But when it gets to, near the area, the midfielders are non-existent. So with three players, one of them just hangs in the area and the other two are just running around trying to look for openings. But you can't, when you play a 4-3-3, it only works if the two midfielders join the attack. That's what it's built on, to create five instead of three in the attack. But only McKennie joined. Rabiot, except for that shot at the beginning, wasn't there all match long. He was kind of just walking around the pitch from defense to attack. And I don't know, it just looks awful. We kind of looked like a mess tactically.
Yeah.
And Berna and Chiesa switched sides. It looked better than it looked in the first half. But once again, everyone who gets the ball except for Chiesa takes too long to think what to do. Eventually, it goes back all the way to Regani or the league. And you can't attack that way. It's just not a regular way to attack, because every time, okay, let's try from the right. Quadrado, McKennie, back to Quadrado, and Napoli reorganize, and that's it. Let's try from the left. Eventually, you lose the ball, and then you're defending a counter. So that was very frustrating for me, at least, the slow speed we build our attacks. I don't need to add anything about Sandro. He always looks like he just finished a marathon, always.
Pretty much.
And yeah, and that's about it. Thank God for Chiesa. And the only player I really don't have a knock on that I expected him to not be that good is Rugani. Considering some of the other players, it was fine. Did his job. Okay, beat unlucky on the goal, but it was more on Sandro than on him. But let's not overreact. It's a 1-1 against just a frustrating result because they're depleted and we're at home and we should have gotten more out of it. And I won't count on VAR to save me save me the win. That's about it.
Yeah. Alexa, your recap.
Yeah, no, that was great from Omar. Honestly, agreed with pretty much everything you mentioned. And I feel the same. It was a frustrating result just for the fact that it was a tie against a relatively depleted Napoli side at home. And these are the type of the games that we need to win, that we shouldn't be dropping points, right? Like that was a big criticism I remember from last season, was dropping points in these types of games. And so I would say in terms of like good points from the match, I agree with Rugani doing a pretty good job at the back, better than we expected. Chiesa being back, that was a huge bonus. I think having him back, we just saw this spark in our play and in our attack that we just lack when he's not there. So I enjoyed having him back. Berna, I thought, did well up front with him. I think Berna, Chiesa, Quadrado are essentially our only players that run at defenders. So that I thought was a good bonus. Although Berna, as I think I mentioned yesterday, held on to the ball way too long. Like if you move the ball, well, as Omar mentioned, a lot of our players do hold on to the ball way too long. If you move it quicker, you're creating something, right? You're doing something more than that. And I think that my frustration from that game is mainly within the lack of attacking organization. I know, Al, we talked about this yesterday, and I tweeted it out yesterday. I was like, I'm going to send a drone to La Continassa to see if they train attacking combinations, because it doesn't look like they do. Like, I mean, when you see them out there, and I don't know if this is honestly Allegri's weakness, and we know that. And Allegri is more of a tactical pragmatist, especially when it comes to the attacking zone. And he was bailed out, or like had the talent in the squad that we had when he was here last time for that to work. But now with the players we have now, and from our front attacking players, it's not working. It looks so disorganized out there, and it's just crossing, honestly, like at the end of the day. Or we send the ball to Chiesa and he takes players on 1v7. Like that is probably where my frustrations lied from that match, was definitely in lack of organization in the attack. But otherwise, as you mentioned, approach was a good approach, but just in the end, we should have had those 3 points. And I think that's where frustration lies with everyone.
Yeah, and that's a really good segue to what we're going to talk about after Cliff gives his recap. I'm going to talk about the approach and the separation in just everything overall, and that's only one little piece of it. But great stuff. Cliff, your recap, and then we'll get into some questions from live. But guys, don't forget, everybody join us live. Final end of the podcast will be the Storm the Barn segment with rapid fire questions. Okay, so if you don't see me get to them here, we will get to them at the end. Okay, so Cliff, your recap.
So both of Lex and Omer made amazing points. They both said stuff that I was going to echo, which is Omer said that you can't play like this. If you want to win against Napoli, you have to come up with creative ideas. You need to be more attacking, more fast-paced. Like everything started with an idea, with McKennie making a run, and I forget who it was who made the initial pass, but it was just, start with one guy thinking, let me go make a run. And it just starts with that. You need to be creative off the ball and look to make these runs where you have players like Locatelli and even DeLitt and Bonucci in some games at the back who can make the passes over the top and find you. So just need to be a little bit more forward thinking. And like Lex said, Lex made a great point. They need to do more training sessions where they're working on finishing and working on headers, because it doesn't seem like they know how to finish. They should take some tips from Alexa's videos that she posts. She's a lot better at finishing than Morata or some of these other guys. But yeah, I mean, like McKennie, wide open shot missed. Moise Kean missed a header. It's just all coming down to something that we've been saying all season, being more clinical. So for me, I think that was the theme throughout the whole match, is just lacking that clinical instinct. And I think once we find that, this Juve team could win a lot more games.
And that's great stuff. And we're now going to tackle it a little bit deeper. Okay. So even in, say we get the right approach and everything's right there, you get 22 opportunities and whatnot, even the right approach with that fire, that tenacity at the start and whatnot, It fizzled. Juve finishes with 44% possession. In Napoli, that wasn't their starting midfield, right? It was still a decent midfield. We all said that, whatnot, but 44% possession. Okay. 22 opportunities total. Only 5 on target. Okay. That's just not good enough. If you're looking for conversion and you're coming out with 5 opportunities that actually go on target out of 22, it's got to be higher. Got to be higher percentages, especially right now with this team that just it hasn't been clinical. I said this, I don't know how long ago. I would have these guys burying blindfolded so that they can just like not make that error. It needs to be second nature. This is crazy. To continuously hear Allegri want goals out of the midfield when our forwards aren't even banging them in is incredibly frustrating, to say the least. You are trying to run before you can even walk. Okay. It's incredibly frustrating. So that's just a couple of the stats that stick out to me is, out of 22 opportunities, 5 on target. And out of those 5 on target, 2 maybe quality chances out of the ones on target, right? And a couple quality ones that just didn't hit the target. So it's frustrating. It's got to be better from that standpoint. The biggest thing I want to get into is you can have the right approach and it's just a piece of the puzzle. The other piece is, where's the cohesion amongst the players and amongst the structure, the organization? Like, what are our ideas to create? Because even on our goal, it's just a one-off cross trying to ping Morata, who's all alone in the area, and the ball falls to the top of the area where Chiesa gets it, and still Chiesa's shot. Very, very fortunate to go in because the defender got such a big piece of it, and luckily it spun off and went into the corner. That's our goal. Our goal was very, very lucky, I think, when you look at the grand scheme of things, and it was nothing that we really did to create. And this is the thing, is that situation is what a lot of Max's offense comes down to. It's just an individual pulling something off out of something that lacks a lot of structure in this match. And we'll get to it now because Haneen basically came in with this earlier, which is, can I just say, I hate when Locatelli plays like a center back. So obviously Max did this in terms of Napoli's press and dropping Locatelli back to have a little bit of that control. I'm still not seeing, again, in this one, we know how Napoli presses. I didn't expect them to get away with that regardless of who they had in the lineup. I saw maybe 2 instances where we got the ball properly, worked it around the side, came back inside to the middle, and Locatelli splashed it out wide. He did one that was incredible, hit Bernardeschi like on this counter there.
Left-footed one.
But then we just don't go to it ever again. That's the kind of quick ball movement that turns things around. And that's how and I've been talking about this for a while. If you're going to counter teams and you want to attack in that meter, you're going to have to cheat on one side and have those options. And Locatelli is the guy that can hit that pass. If Artur's in there, he's not hitting that pass. He's not even attempting it. So there are pros and cons to having Locatelli deeper. In the grand scheme of things, in this one, was that really the be-all, end-all? I don't think so. I still see a team that lacks the ideas and the creativity as a whole. Our forwards simply do not share an understanding. And today, Alex and myself got into a bit of a discussion on Twitter about that and talking about the players, and it's the level of the players. He says you have Dybala and Chiesa that are up here, and Morata's just not there with them. Keane is not with them. I'm not buying into that. And the whole reason is because that is exactly why you have a set structure, organization, and game plan, is so that it brings those players to share one understanding and puts their minds together so that all that's left for them to do is to execute. Right now, without an understanding and organization and structure to our attack, it's a guessing game between the players of what's this guy going to do. And that's why it seems like there's a separation in, levels of where the players are, is because you're literally banking on them doing stuff individually. And that's why it comes down to that. But for me, Max is not the guy to get that. And I think that's going to be a big, big problem for this Juve squad. That is me. Those are my thoughts. You guys dissect and fly at it right now, okay? What do you see in that? Omar, start us off.
Max once said that you can't, force players to create creativity. You got to let their natural skill make that. You can bring them all the way to the area, but when they're there, it's up to them. And he always kind of counted on players that do it well, like Pirlo or Pjanic, and these guys knew what to do creatively. And now we're kind of lacking in this area. We don't have that many creative players, maybe Dybala and Locatelli. So Max needs to intervene and to teach them how to create chances. And that's what I'm not seeing right now. We try to be organized in the midfield and defense, and the attack is pretty much a mess right now. And once again, it goes back to the slow build-up. After that brilliant Locatelli pass to Bernardeschi, McKennie made a great run, and Bernardeschi should have given him the ball right away. But he waited, and McKennie just ran off, and then he ran all the way to the center. Like, how many goals or assists did you get from that type of run to the center? It doesn't work, and Napoli kind of just stayed organized. You move the ball always in football. I always say that you move the ball to move the other team, not just to move the ball. But if you just, passing across the lanes and back, and then the other team just stays in formation, nothing happens. Like, we were always around the area, and like you said, 22 shots on goal. I think like 18 of them were from outside the area, just because there were no options, no movement, no nothing. Some of them went into, the frame of the goal. Most of them went out. And that's where our problem lies. We don't bank on long shots because we don't have very good long shot takers. When we had Pogba, it was a great way to play. And now we don't have it, so let's leave that aside and try something new. Overloading the area, okay. If we score 3 and concede 2, I'm fine with it. Nothing wrong with it. But our main problem is not just not conceding, it's scoring. And they need to just work on that day in, day out. Morata, I don't even know what he's doing anymore. He's losing balls left and right. You don't need to bank on long balls, because we kind of lost most of our balls from simple passes, on the ground to close players, just were not executed good.
Yeah. Cliff and
that's it.
Lex here. What are your thoughts on the structured attack and lack thereof? And how much do you think it plays into this?
So Omer made a lot of great points. I think it's just down to Allegri, as we know, plays very pragmatic. So we're not expecting to blow teams out 5-0. But the thing is, I don't think this Juve squad dictates that. I think this squad, if played properly, can beat teams like Omer said 3-2. Because I don't think we're as defensively sound as we were in the past. But for me, what you said before about the level of players, I think it's true that Morata is not on the level of Dybala or Chiesa, but like you said, tactically, if he's in the right scenarios, which a lot of the times he's not putting himself in the right positions, he's not making the runs. Sometimes it looks like McKennie's more of a striker than him in yesterday's game, because he was making a lot of those forward runs. It's just, there's a lot of things, like Omer said, also the creativity in the midfield. There's not as many high IQ players in terms of looking forward and being creative. It's really just, I feel like Locatelli, and it's really it for me when I see the forward thinking. Rabiot is kind of lost, and Artur, he just passes side to side when he plays. But I mean, Chiesa was a bright spot. Bernardeschi they were bright spots. You just need a competent striker. I think Morata's great for his work rate. He's really good at pressing, but he's just not adept at scoring goals. Like you said in a previous video, at a high clip. He's not a guy who's going to get you 30 goals. He's going to get you probably 12 to 15 goals in a season, at best. And if he's doing that, it'd be great. But right now, I think he has 5 or 6 goals on the season, which is not enough.
Yeah, I think there's still issues there. So even if Morata's making those runs, who's playing off of him? Is the ball going to go there?
Yeah.
What's our strategy? What are we trying to do? That's the point. And even though McKennie made a couple of those runs, he completely abandoned Locatelli I don't know how many times in the middle of the park, as did Rabiot. It was brutal. Like, looking at this team organizationally, it's brutal.
Yeah.
And
At
Locatelli
one
was
point-
getting slammed on social media by some for his performance, and I was absolutely shocked to see tweets about Locatelli having a bad performance, because I thought he was great. I thought Locatelli had a great game. Locatelli, De Ligt, and Chiesa, for me, had great games. But yeah, I think it's only part of it. And I don't think this is a quality thing. I think you pull in another striker, sure, he bangs some of these opportunities, but you're still not creating nearly enough. And you're still playing that game of hope. Lex?
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree with you, Al, in terms of even my own opinion about Allegri not really being the man for this job. And unfortunately, we're gonna be keeping him for another year at least, just because of the contract we've signed him to. But it's just like you said, the lack of structure in the attack and the lack of structure even in the buildup. I mean, like, we've got even Morata, it's hard to place so much blame on him and some of the other attackers when there's only like 2 of them up the field. And we have everyone's way far behind the ball. We have no support coming up to help them. And in terms of, yeah, exactly. And in terms of where those players are on the field, it's like no one's joining the attack. We don't have a proper link between defenders and the forwards a lot of the times. I find we're still, especially when Dybala's not on the pitch, we still have a lack of transition. And so it's difficult for us to attack and work as a team. And so I mean, in my opinion, I saw a little bit at the end of last season, we had a bit more. I know a lot of the knocks on Pirlo was the whole just crossing the ball a lot, right? Especially earlier when he was coaching. But I think by the end, I at least saw a little bit more of a system, an attacking system, as if he was starting to implement his ideas. And then we went and changed manager again, which, again, giving a manager a year to implement ideas, as we've done now 3 times. And I think that that's not fair to the manager or to the players. And I think in the end, it shows on the pitch into a relatively disorganized and basically confused looking team, because that's honestly what they look like. There's no cohesion. There's been no consistency.
You know what? At one point, McKennie just
Sorry,
signaled,
Omar, one sec. I have to make this clear. I'm not saying Allegri out. Okay, I'm not saying Allegri out.
Yeah.
I'm questioning and starting to have doubts about if he's the guy to turn the corner on this team offensively.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think that we give him another year, because he doesn't necessarily have his players yet, right? So that was my thing. I'm going to hold off also on complete judgment of what he's doing, because he has to bring in kind of his players, his squad this summer. Give him next year, but I'm the same. I agree, Al.
Yeah, it's just it's frustrating because you've got these guys 1 year removed from some successful seasons. I mean, although there was frustrations with Kulashevsky last year, I mean, he was scoring goals. He had decent amount of contributions and whatnot. McKennie had great contributions in the first half last season. Obviously, he had some hip injury and then kind of bothered him towards the second half. He's starting to make an impact, but it's got to start to amount in numbers. It does. But again, we need some of the other guys firing. I still just need more of an understanding coming from our players. And it does make me question, what exactly are we training? Why are we in January and guys don't have an understanding of what they want to do? Even just a simple game plan. We talked about Napoli and their press and how we were going to, exit it and how we were going to turn it into attack and whatnot. And we saw it a couple times. And outside of that, a lot of our stuff just kind of came by chance. This is the thing, is just our opportunities just kind of they're just kind of falling there. But It's not necessarily anything that we're drilling through. So it's just it's a frustrating thing, but we wanted to definitely touch on that. Let's talk about some of these player performances yesterday. Obviously, Sandro got absolutely lambasted, and rightfully so. I've been taking so much heat for being hard on Sandro for probably about 3 seasons now. Okay. And I've like been saying, I think we need to move away from him. Look, like we need to move away from him, and was always getting fed the same lines about his experience. And he was great, in 15, 16, whatever. And it's like, we just kept hoping it's going to come back there. We had about 3 or 4 games at the start of this year where Sandro went back to 15, 16 and then just fizzled. Look, performance-wise, it's the Striped Hearts apparel man of the match. If you had to pick a man of the match for Juventus in this one, I want to know your picks. Cliff, who's your man of the match for Juve in this one?
Plain and simple, I think it's Chiesa. I think Bernardeschi does deserve a shout, so I know some of you guys will probably shout him. Chiesa, that was a one-man wrecking crew. He was always, putting in the right ideas. He was going towards goal, taking shots, being aggressive. Only got one, but the one goal was good. But I think for me, it was him.
Yeah, there you go. So Chiesa for Cliff. Lex.
I'm going to have to agree with Cliff and go with Chiesa. I just thought that he had that attacking power, and there's points in the match where he was quite honestly all over the pitch. And so, yeah, I agree with Luca too. Yeah, Locatelli definitely deserves a shout. Some of the beautiful 3 balls he made, it was like visions of Pirlo a little bit. But anyways, go ahead, Omar. What do you say?
My prediction, Chiesa. If we had one more player in attack that plays like him with that intensity and will, then we would look much better. But he's the only one right now who's creating, yesterday at least, the only one who's creating, taking shots, getting into the area, opening space. So all goes to him.
Okay, there you go. Now, real quick, I want to remind everybody, we're very, very close to the Storm the Barn session, which is rapid fire questions. So all your questions that you have, fire them in the live chat now, and then we're going to get to them. Okay, so start getting those questions in right now. Now, for my man of the match, I wouldn't have. Cliff said there was a show for Bernardeschi. I didn't have him in the vicinity whatsoever.
Bad game.
I thought he was, a lot of hit and miss in that one. I thought it was between Chiesa, Locatelli, and De Ligt for me. But probably, Chiesa obviously would have edged Locatelli in my mind just because of the fact he was always involved and always trying to push things ahead and make things happen. So Chiesa, man of the match in this one. Let's get to one of the questions that came in from Twitter real quick, and that is, how did you feel about Max's substitutions in this match? So at the 66th minute, we had Dybala coming in for Bernardeschi and Bentancur in for Rabiot. In the 75th minute, we had Di Chilio in for Sandro and Keane in for Morata. Did you guys think at least the 75-minute changes should have come in too soon? Because I don't think you could say a 66-minute change to bring in Dybala and Bentancur would have been too late. I think that would have been probably bang on. Especially given the circumstances with Dybala, right? So I was fine with that. So maybe the question would be, should Keane have come on earlier, and should Sandro have been taken off earlier? What do you guys think about his substitutions? Omar, you're nodding your head there.
Yeah, the first 2 were right on time. Okay, great. The second substitution should have come like 1 minute later. After the first substitution, 75 minutes is just late. It takes time to get into the groove of the game, and Sandro should have come out a lot earlier, maybe even in the first substitution instead of Rabiot or Bernardeschi. So, the second substitution was too late. Kulashevsky, I'm not even going to mention him. I don't remember him being on the field.
There you go. Lex, subs?
Yeah, I agree with Omar completely. I thought that it was interesting. Someone mentioned it too yesterday, I think on Twitter. It was like, I never thought I'd be hoping for Di Chilio to come on the field. But I think that, he probably should have come on a bit sooner for Sandro. And then in terms of Kulashevsky, the commentator even said, they're like, oh, I don't think he's touched the ball yet. And it was like the 94th minute or something. And so even that one was just like, it takes a while for players to get involved, as you mentioned. So I think like, it's like probably a little too late if you were really trying to use him in a way that you wanted him to do something out there. But.
Yeah. And Cliff.
Yeah, who would have thought we'd say we want DeShilio on the pitch instead of Sandro 3 or 4 years ago? But yeah, I think the Dybala switch and Bentancur switch was good. Had a good timing. I would have gotten Keane in a little bit earlier, like you guys said, just because with strikers it takes more time to get into the game. And I do think when Keane's come into games recently, he's been showing good form. So I would have put him in a little bit earlier to see what he can, spark in the team. Because he provides good runs at times, and he gets him right in the right positions. So I probably would have brought that in probably 5 or 6 minutes after the first sub, because I think they could have made a more impact if they came on sooner.
Mainly because Napoli looked tired as hell, and their first substitution was at like the 77th minute. So you expected the new guys to run at them and stretch them a bit, but it didn't happen.
So the good news, Kyle Jorge and Pellegrini are back training with the group. Okay? So to everybody getting fired up about Sandro, hopefully we see Pellegrini against Roma, which is a quick turnaround. Obviously, we know we play them on Sunday, and that's going to be another one. Big result needed. Need the win, need the 3 points. So big one coming up. We'll touch a little bit on that towards the end here, but that's just a piece of news that just broke out here from Romeo. So now let's get to some of these questions. Luca had one that he wanted us to save for the Storm the Barn session, and we're there. We're at Storm the Barn, everybody. So what's he got? Did Morata look unmotivated to you guys? So in the rapid fire, quick response, just straight out of your gut. For me, no. He will unmotivated was not the issue. For me, it's just lack of ideas as a team. Cliff, was he unmotivated to you?
Gut says yes. Gut says yes.
Lex?
No, I agree with you, Al. You said what I would have said.
Yeah. Omer?
No, he looked like he always looking for fouls and bad hold of play. That's it.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Do you think De Ligt could have stopped the goal if it wasn't for Tech is what I'm thinking? Yeah, absolutely he would have if it wasn't for Tech. Omer? Yeah. Clean sweep there on that one. Yeah, if it wasn't for that touch. But again, I think Tech, if you get a piece, get the whole thing here. Jat's question. Why does Allegri keep starting Rabiot? I'm going to let you guys back. I have no idea, to be honest.
You should ask God. I guess none of us have the answer. Only Allegri, Rabiot, and God knows the answer to that.
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer.
I was going to say, I think his mom keeps threatening Allegri. I think that's why.
No, to be more precise, he probably prefers his physicality over Arthur's and Bentancur's, but it doesn't show on the field, so I have no idea why he's playing him regularly.
Yeah. I think, and again, the frustrating part is everything he seems to say is like he's asking for Rabiot to almost like reinvent himself. Like everything he's asking for, I've never seen out of him. It's like you want this physical, dominant midfielder, and it's like we've seen that a couple times. It's just not a consistent thing out of him. And then you want these goals coming from Rabiot, and it's like, well, we've seen like 2 last season. Like that's what you're probably going to get. So I don't know, to expect this revolution there is just, that's a frustrating part. Next question. Who should start alongside Locatelli and McKennie? Rabiot, Bentancur, Arthur, or do you go for the 2-man midfield? This is a great question because for me, I'm sick and tired of it, and I say you put 2 pivots and get your attackings out there, and if you have to empty the clip. But let's start scoring some damn goals. So I go 2-man pivot personally, and it's between and McKennie and Loca and Bentancur for me as my 1A options. You guys, go ahead. Cliff?
I'm going with my man, We're going 2-man pivot, and I'm happy you gave a shout for Luka and McKinney because that's what I've been screaming for all season. That's what I want to see.
There you go. Lex?
2-man pivot, and completely agree with Al. So either Luka McKinney or Luka Bentancur.
Omar?
I like the 4-3-3. Arthur as a CDM and Locatelli on the left. We just need someone to join the attack except for McKinney.
There you go. There you go. So one with the 4-3-3, rest with the 2-man pivot. Let's get to the next one here. Will we beat Villarreal with this form? Do we even have a chance? Because Villarreal are scoring plenty of goals. We're not even able to beat Napoli's B-side. So again, it's frustrating. We should have got the 3 points there. It wasn't as much of a Napoli B-side as we all expected through some of the projections. That's besides the point. I'm with you 100%. I'm with all the Juventini out there. We need to get those 3 points. Needed to be a win. Villarreal is scoring an absurd amount of goals. It's crazy. I think they put up 7 on was it Atletico? They put up 7 against one of these teams. It wasn't Atletico Madrid. It was Atletico
Bilbao.
Possibly. But like, it's absurd the amount of goals they're scoring. I think they had a span of 5 matches where they were almost as many as goals as Juve has this season in Serie A. In a span of 5 or 6 matches, like they're not far off. Like, that's the crazy thing. And that's got a lot of Juventini looking at this matchup now and being scared. Will we beat Villarreal? Do we have a chance? Of course we have a chance. The Champions League nights are completely different. We still have quite a bit of time to get things going, get things together. Bright side, Chiesa and Dybala are back. Will we beat Villarreal? I am always, I'm black and white, and I bleed it till the very end. So I'm going to say yes. Yes. Will it be difficult? Absolutely. But I'm saying Juve goes through. Omar?
Villarreal does score a lot of goals, but it's in La Liga. La Liga doesn't, hold the defensive work to a higher standards like Serie A. So the stats sometimes lie in that league. They are a great team. They're a fantastic team. They're very well trained and organized. They have some great players, some better than our players. If we can go through, of course we can. It's knockout games. Everything can happen. It's different from league games. Will we go through? I can't promise you that. I'm hoping. I'm kind of banking on it. But I won't
better be able to promise us, man. What do you mean you can't promise us? Make
No,
the damn
I'm
promise.
sorry.
Come on.
There's a site called Ask God. You can go on there and ask any questions you want and get the answer that probably satisfies you.
Here at all Juvecast, it's Ask Anthony, because he'll be the one that says that. He'll say,
I can tell you his answer.
We're going
Villarreal stink. Yeah, I hope we go through, but the last 3 seasons doesn't, give me too much hope.
And I agree with you on the terms of the league and the goals and whatnot, but I don't think we can discredit the momentum and the confidence it gives any team taking it out of that league into Champions League when you are scoring goals. Like, for
100%.
instance, now with Juve, it's completely in our heads, I feel. And the longer it goes that we're not scoring multiple goals in games, the tougher it is on the guys and the more tension they put on themselves and pressure picks up and whatnot. And they need to start banging. And we need some goals in these next few matches, like at least 2. But like against Roma, I would like to, we got to bag a couple minimum 2 against Roma. But I would like to see them get 3. We need to start scoring goals and carry it in there. Lex, Villarreal, your thoughts, feelings?
I agree with Omar. It's the last couple of years are definitely, I think, in all the Juventini's minds. But
PTSD,
I think,
yeah,
a little bit, right? I mean, but I do think that obviously always have faith in Juve. Of course, we have a chance. Anyone who shows up on the pitch has a chance, and I still think we can beat them. And I mean, leave it to Max, because if there's one thing he does well, it's tactically matching up against another team. So I have faith that I think we'll win.
Nice. Cliff?
Always, I think Juve wins Villarreal. For three reasons: Bonucci, Chiellini, De Ligt. I think we could shut down their attack with those three center backs.
There you go. It's quick, simple, effective. Now, let's get to the next one. Can Sulei replace Kulashevsky next season? Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Lex? Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Cliff?
I haven't seen much of him, but I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think just in terms of the preseason and the brief, that little stint there, you could just see he's a lot smoother. It's not as clunky as Kulashevsky. And if we're going to be relying on individuals, Sulei's pretty silky. So, and what's he really replacing? Because Kulashevsky hasn't hit stride like truly with us.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's this big level to replace. If we're going to ask Sulei next season to come in and play the odd minutes here and there, like Kulashevsky, come off the bench, I'm fine with it. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think you'll see Sulei in the first team next season. That's another question for all you. Is Sulei in the first team next season? I say no.
If
No.
Allegri is there, then no.
There you go. There you go. Sorry to crush it there for you, KM. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Sorry. What do you make of Max's post-match comments doing the rounds on Twitter? Take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes it can be frustrating given the moment. But I think I'm starting to put the pressers in the same category as players' tweets, where I really don't care. To be honest, I need to see things come through on the pitch. Otherwise, it's all talk and it's all BS. And that's just how I'm starting to feel. Omar.
Yeah. There's no point to those pressers. You really want to know what the player thinks? You really want to know? Go look
Watch
at
All
that
or
last,
Nothing.
and go listen to that latest Lukaku interview. See how well it went with Chelsea and Inter
There
fans
you
when the
go.
player said exactly what he feels and thinks. Did it
Yeah.
go down well? No, you don't want to know what a player or manager really thinks. It will
I
bum
agree.
you out.
It's damage control, I think. I mean, he's just saying things. Like we said, he's not going to come out and give his like complete emotional reaction to the game. So I just, like you said, I kind of disregard it.
Yeah.
Omer said it perfectly. It's all smoke and mirrors. Allegri is one of the best at doing pressers. He's never going to give you anything that's in the locker room.
There you go. There you go. Okay. I'm not sure. We'll give you guys a couple minutes for maybe any last questions. I'm just scanning through there. The chat's got a ton of talk there. Okay, here's one realistic January transfer. Michael Razzo, I think you, my friend, need to be here Sunday morning because Mirko Di Natale will be there. Okay, so he's going to be here. We're going to talk. I'm going to probably really, really grind him more towards the summer because if you guys haven't been paying attention, Mirko's been like the only one. There's been two of the top echelon guys that have said Vlahovic's priority is Juventus. I guarantee you, I am going to grind him on this and just see how confident he feels in it. Maybe we'll put a little wager on it too, because I don't see it happening. But Mirko's been the one staying strong on that. And KM, you will appreciate that in the live chat because you are 100%, 150% that Vlahovic is coming. Kind of like I remember Omar being 120% that Haaland would join Juventus.
I'm
But
still on that boat.
to Homer's defense, he never said at what age. So, I mean, we could be getting a 35-year-old Haaland at some point at Juventus.
Always leave a loophole. Always leave a loophole.
We'll see. But, guys, yeah, frustrating not to get that. The 1 point is not the be-all, end-all. These are the tough ones. I think still ultimately when you look at this Juventus and you break down this season up until now, this is not the match that we're going to be kicking ourselves for. I mean, we will a little bit, but it's that Venezia draw. It's at the start of the year, the Empoli loss. You know, it's those ones that are the killers. This Sunday, we got to get it going with Roma and have to get a win there. Want to get your guys' thoughts going into this Roma match before we kind of get things wrapped up here on the pod. So, Cliff, let's get your thoughts on the Juve and Roma match coming up this weekend.
Well, Milan just dismantled Roma, so I think that leaves them very vulnerable for Juve to just keep going in on them and beat them soundly. But you just have to be very careful of Tammy Abraham. He's very very dangerous up top. So whoever's at the back needs to be very very vigilant of his pace and his physicality. Even though he's a little bit leaner, he's 6'5". He definitely dominates himself, or he makes his presence known at the top. Um, if Zaniolo plays, you always have to be worried about him. Mourinho, he's usually built for the big games, so we'll see. He wasn't up to the task against Milan. So I think Juve could win this one 2-1, but I don't think it's comfortable. I think Roma makes it very difficult for Juve.
There you go. Lex, you're making some
Um,
points to some comments.
People mentioning about the 2 red cards. That's what I was going to get at. That's what I was so I was pointing at, because I think they're going to have 2 suspensions going into this game. Although, yeah, Luca mentioned it. Although I think it leaves them I think they're pretty fired up after that Milan match, though. But I think, as we will be, hopefully, after that Napoli match as well. So I think we're in for a good one. I mean, I don't want to predict anything. I don't want to jinx anything, but that's all I have to say.
There you go. Omar, your thoughts as we get ready for Roma.
Roma are always a weird fixture. You never know where it's going to go and what type of Roma you're going to get, because sometimes they're a great fluid team and sometimes they're just a shit show. So hopefully this is the Roma we'll get. They have some absentees too. It's probably still Rugani playing, although, like I said, it was decent last night. I don't know what to think anymore. Hopefully, like you said, we get a couple of goals to get things running for the new year, and that's about it.
Yeah, hopefully. We got another question we'll slide in there. Do you think signing better players will make us actually play better football or just increase our win percentage? Interesting question. Cliff.
I'm of the mindset that, if you give this team better players, I do think you'll see a difference. I think you'd see more wins, and I think you'd actually see better play, personally.
Lex.
I'm going to go with better players that fit a system that we have. Like signing the right players, not necessarily even better players, just the right players, the pieces that are missing. The players we never replaced, like we've never replaced Pogba. We still haven't. Like that's my thing. It's not even just signing, because our players that we have, especially the ones on higher contract, not necessarily bad players. We're just not the right players. So we need that puzzle to fit together better. That's probably what I would say.
Yeah, and that's probably where I would go with it too. To answer Dell's question, is just what players do we need? Like you can pick a better player. Does he fit? What are we trying to fit into? Because we're going between 2-man pivots now and 3-man midfields, and what are we going for here? Better players will help, obviously, but I still say let's remember that when Max was coming towards the end, and this was not his final year, in his second to last season with Juve, we had a pretty solid roster, and that team played pretty brutal. So I still say his thing has always lacked an offensive structure and system and style. So yeah, those players, I think when you get the better players, it saves you, but we need a little bit more too. And I've seen some pretty good teams lately that play absolutely awful, because if you get too many cooks in the kitchen, sometimes that doesn't work either. Omar, your thoughts on this question?
I think these two most of the time goes hand in hand. It's not either this or that. Like if you throw N'Golo Kante in that midfield, then a win percentage will surely go up. But like Lex said, it's a puzzle. If the pieces fit, then it all works. If they doesn't fit, then it will look like shit and we lose win percentage. And the Max's last year was just, the other teams were awful. We kind of won it by March and lost the last couple of games of the season, and it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
So that's
the other thing is too, I mean, if you look at this team, maybe we do more and maybe it looks better given the personnel that he does use, right? Regardless of the system, because sometimes, like, if you look at this game, like Sandro's not going to give you anything on the left. You play Rabiot as a Mitsala on that side, and you have a completely dead side. And we see it over and over and over. And we saw it with Matuidi and Sandro as well. And this is not a knock on Matuidi because he had his role and played it. But if you put two negatives there, like, it's just, what are you going to do? Your play when you get there is always going to stall out and die. And we need to start thinking about that more than anything. And I don't care about this left foot, right foot nonsense. I never have. And I've never played on a team that actually did that, really, to be 100% honest with you. Because the majority of the players around, like when I grew up and where we were playing, right footers. So you played anywhere anyways. And this whole thing, like, break up the Sandro Rabiot left side. I'm tired of it. Just put McKennie over there if you're going to play a three-man midfield to give you a little bit of a balance to your sides that you can attack. You've got Cuadrado on the other side who's going to attack. Split it up a bit, break it up a bit, and maybe that helps overall the group and what they can do. And that's just me spitballing because I get so damn frustrated, this Rabiot Sandro side. But yeah, anyways, we got to have a big one Sunday against Roma. Guys, appreciate great panel today. A lot of great stuff. Omar's got his hand up here. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I just want to address one last thing that should be addressed, the chance toward Moiskin near the end. It's always, when racism happens, it's always bad. It's always disgusting. Just don't go out and throw it in every Napoli fan's face, because I'm pretty sure most of them are ashamed of it and are not endorsing it, and they're not at fault for someone yelling at the stadium. I saw some of the famous accounts that posted they're really ashamed of it. When a Juve fan did it to Mike Magnan from Milan, I felt ashamed. Racism is a disease. You don't cure a disease by spreading it, and don't give this too much attention. Those people will probably be banned, and just let's hope it's never our fans, but don't go throw it at every Napoli fan because it's not their fault.
Yeah, and this is good to finish up on because I kind of been anyone who follows me on Twitter knows the battles I was in this week with Napoli and whatnot, and I was taking it to just a level of banter. And they took it to a level of the chants about Vesuvius erupting and, of course, burning the city and all this. And I said, where on earth have you seen me type this on any thread or anything? And I go, so I cannot stress enough, to paint an entire fan base with the same brush is ridiculous and not fair. If somebody takes it to that level, then that's a different story. But if they haven't, just leave it alone. And what happened there is prime evidence, because you have certain accounts out there. They know who they are. Most of you know who they are as well, who will continue to put that nonsense out about the Juventini that were in a crowd that got reprimanded, as well as Lazio fans for the chants towards Napoli and whatnot. I can go and cherry pick a million pieces of evidence of Napoli doing ridiculous things. Their fans, kids in the streets with caskets in tow with players' names and faces, pictures posted on these caskets. Start of the season, we had Nedved figure hanging, execution style and whatnot. You can pinpoint all these things. And now yesterday you have the monkey chants towards Keane and whatnot, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I will not paint an entire fan base with that brush, but it goes to show you there are idiots amongst all fan bases, and that's across all sports. Okay. It is best, like Omar said, let it be, leave it alone. The true ones are the ones that are ashamed, and we just leave it at that and pay no attention to it. The ones that want to play that game, I feel sorry for them, because that's a sad life if you want to play games like that. So it's best not to get involved. Great finishing point there, Omar, as the league needs to do better. We've been saying that for a while. And this game in general, the ASL and Serie A not being on the same page is a big thing too, you know, and it's sad because we all love Serie A so much, but they need to get their shit together basically when it comes to all this lack of cohesion even between the ASL. They need to get on the same page. The plan needs to be clear because you can't have matches being called off, postponed, and then other matches in question and then being played. Way too much unnecessary drama. However, I know that Italians and unnecessary drama almost go hand in hand, okay? But they got to do better. They got to do better. Everybody, we're going to wrap it up there. We're back Sunday morning for the Match Day Live. Of course, Mirko Di Natale will be here. That will be the time to get any and all of your questions in. Cliff, Omar, Lex, fantastic having you all aboard on this one. Let's get the win on Sunday, okay? Everybody, like the video, okay? Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, of course, and share the content, and let's continue to grow this community, okay? And we thank you all for your support. Until Sunday, as always, Fino alla fine, Forza Juventus. Ciao.